My parents didn't lower their voices when they said it. The greatest gift for your brother's wedding is you vanishing from this family forever. They said it at the table where I had spent months planning every detail of his perfect day. My brother didn't defend me. My mother didn't blink. My father just folded his napkin like the conversation was over. I didn't beg. I stood up, walked out into the night air, and felt something inside me finally snap free. By morning, their dream wedding was already collapsing. Before I tell you how it all fell apart, drop a comment telling me where you're listening from and hit subscribe so we can meet here every day for more stories like this. My name is Luna Hart, and for most of my life, I believed loyalty was the same thing as love. In our house in Erie, that belief kept me busy, fixing problems no one acknowledged, filling gaps no one thanked me for, and carrying weight my family pretended didn't exist. From the outside, we looked steady, a small family grocery store, a tidy home, a son who became a lawyer, and a daughter who helped out. But inside, everything tilted toward my brother Dorian. My mother Marla had a way of praising him that filled every room. She'd glow when he spoke about cases he barely won, boast about the hours he billed, and treat every minor accomplishment like a national holiday. My father, Colin, mirrored her quiet, approving content to let Dorian sit at the head of every conversation. I used to fold myself into the background because it kept the peace, or at least that's what I told myself. Years before the wedding disaster, I had the chance to take on a marketing contract worth $40,000. It would have launched my career, pushed me toward the independence I'd been craving. But that was the same month our family store started to sink. Bills, stacked up shelves thinned out, and the fear in my parents' eyes pulled me right back into their orbit. I canceled the contract the same day my mother called crying. I spent nights designing flyers, recording radio ads, and convincing vendors to give us just a little more time. I created a social media push that doubled our foot traffic in weeks. And when the store finally steadied when the panic left my parents' faces, I truly believed maybe for the first time in years that they'd see me. But at the family meeting, my mother clasped her hands like she was announcing royalty. "We've decided Dorian should take over the store," she said. "He just has the head for leadership." My father didn't even look at me when he agreed. Dorian hadn't lifted a finger. He'd barely stepped inside during those months. And yet, he was the one handed the keys, the praise, the legacy. I felt something inside me shift, then not enough to break, but enough to crack. That crack widened as the wedding planning began. They didn't ask if I had time. They didn't ask what it would cost. They just handed me the responsibility, the deadlines, and the silence that followed whenever I did anything right. The deeper I sank into the wedding planning, the more I realized I wasn't planning a celebration. I was managing a production built entirely on entitlement. Elise, my brother's fiancée, tried to be kind in soft, apologetic ways, but she never stopped Dorian from piling demands onto my plate. And my parents. They acted like it was only natural that I'd drop everything to make their golden son's day perfect. I stretched my freelance schedule, thin-squeezed client calls between venue tours, and poured $10,000 from my savings into deposits because every time I suggested a budget, my mother sniffed like I'd insulted the family name. One afternoon, I showed them the invitation draft I'd spent hours on. Marla barely skimmed it before pointing at a tiny spacing error. "Careless," she muttered, tossing it back like it was trash. Dorian smirked. Typical Luna. My father didn't even look up from the TV. I swallowed the sting and kept going, adjusting timelines, renegotiating contracts, finding cheaper alternatives to the expensive whims Dorian kept adding. A luxury band, imported flowers, specialty champagne. Every no I offered was met with an eye roll or a reminder that this is his only wedding, Luna. At night, I met Mason at a small coffee shop downtown. He watched me sink into my chair, drained. "You look exhausted," he said gently. "I just need to get through this wedding," I told him. "Maybe then they'll finally see. They won't." He cut in, not unkindly. "You're building a house in a place that keeps burning it down." His words lingered long after I drove home. The turning point came at a bridal menu tasting a week before the wedding. I had meticulously selected dishes that matched our budget roasted chicken summer salads, simple sides that tasted far better than they cost. But Dorian pushed the plate away after a single bite. "This is bland," he said. "We need lobster. And real champagne, not whatever this is." My mother nodded instantly. "Fix it, Luna." I reminded them I had already paid the deposits, that the upgrades would multiply the cost. Dorian leaned back, eyes cold. Stop cutting corners. Make it happen. Something broke inside me, then not a crack, not a shift, but a clean snap. The next day, Dorian posted on a local community page, "My sister is ruining our wedding with her laziness and cheap decisions." The comments flooded in neighbors I'd helped for years, calling me selfish and dramatic. That was the moment the quiet embers inside me turned into heat. Not rage yet, just heat. Steady, growing. The night everything cracked wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. The tension around the dinner table felt thick enough to chew. My mother had roasted chicken, the same meal she made for every important family night, but no one touched their plates. Dorian scrolled on his phone. Elise picked at her napkin. My father sipped his wine like he wished he were anywhere else. I had spent the entire day juggling vendor calls, trying to keep the wedding from tipping over the edge. I thought stupidly that tonight might be the moment to align expectations, to remind them all that I was paying half the deposits from my own savings. But the second I opened my planner, Dorian pounced. "We need upgrades," he said without looking up. "Lobster, better champagne, and book that photographer from Pittsburgh, the one Elise likes." I closed the planner slowly. There's no money left for upgrades. I already paid the deposits, and the photographer alone costs more than everything we've booked combined. Dorian scoffed. "You're always so dramatic. Just figure it out." My mother set down her fork with a sharp clink. "He's right, Luna." "Why are you making this difficult?" I felt my heartbeat thudding in my ears. "I'm not making it difficult. I've spent $10,000 of my own savings to cover this wedding. I'm out of money, out of options." My father finally looked up, only to shake his head. "This is your brother's once-in-a-lifetime day. Don't ruin it. Ruin it." The word landed like a slap. I stared at each of them, searching for even a flicker of gratitude. Nothing. Just annoyance that I couldn't stretch myself thinner. "I can't give you what you're asking for," I said quietly. That was when my mother leaned forward, voice low but razor sharp. "The greatest gift for your brother's wedding is you vanishing from this family forever." Elise's eyes widened. Dorian didn't react at all. My father folded his napkin like the conversation had simply concluded. Something inside me went still. Not broken, just still. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I pushed my chair back, stood, and walked out. The night air hit my face like a cold, clean truth. I went straight to my room, pulled out a suitcase, and began packing in silence. Clothes, toiletries, documents, everything that had ever belonged solely to me. I grabbed my keys, walked to the door. When it clicked shut behind me, it sounded final, like the last period at the end of a sentence I should have stopped writing years ago. The night I left Erie felt colder than usual, as if the whole city had stepped back from me, giving me room to breathe for the first time. I sat in my car with the engine off, staring at my hands on the steering wheel. They weren't shaking, they weren't clenched, they were steady, steadier than they had ever been in my parents' house. By morning, the sun rose into a sky that looked too calm for what I was about to do. But clarity has a quietness to it. And mine came with a list. First, I called the caterer. "I need to cancel all services for the Hart Grant wedding," I said. The coordinator hesitated. "There will be penalties." "That's fine." "Refund whatever can be refunded. Release the date. Next, the florist." Her voice softened when she recognized me. "I'm sorry," I told her. "Something's changed. Please cancel the order and send back whatever portion of my deposit you can." The band was trickier. They had already cashed my check, but banks have processes for disputes, and I filed one before lunchtime. By 2 in the afternoon, I'd recovered nearly all of my $10,000. Not by plotting revenge, not by destroying anything, simply by unraveling everything I had personally stitched together. My phone buzzed over and over, calls from my mother, my father, Elise, and eventually Dorian. I didn't answer. Not because I wanted to torture them, but because silence was the first boundary I had ever allowed myself. That evening, I stood in the center of my small studio apartment, the one I'd barely spent time in because I'd been living out of duty. I looked around at the bare walls, the unfolded laundry, the half-written project notes on my desk. For once, the mess was mine and mine alone. The next morning, the wedding day arrived. Erie's air smelled like rain, even though the sky was clear. I didn't go to the venue. I didn't sit in my car and watch from afar. I simply opened my window, made a cup of tea, and let my silence speak for me. But the chaos still found me. Around 10, my phone lit up with a frantic call from Elise. I let it ring out, then another call this time from an unknown number. Then my mother's name. Then my father's. Finally, a voicemail. I pressed play. "Luna?" My mother snapped her voice sharp with panic. "The flowers aren't here. The florist says the order was canceled. Call them back right now." Before the voicemail even ended, another started. "This isn't funny," my father said, breathless. "The band isn't coming. The venue says there's no catering. What did you do?" Then the third one. "Dorian. You ruined everything," he hissed. "Fix this or don't bother coming back home. Actually, don't come back at all." I almost laughed at the irony after all they were the ones who told me to vanish. I had simply honored their request. While they spiraled, guests began to arrive at the venue. Shirley later told me someone she knew had been there and described it in perfect detail. The parking lot filled with confused relatives in suits and pastel dresses. Inside the venue smelled like nothing. No roses, no eucalyptus, no centerpieces soaking in water. A dozen round tables stood bare except for white linens that suddenly looked cheap without bouquets. The stage in the back sat empty, no microphones, no instruments. And the kitchen staff? They were prepping for another event entirely. By noon, the panic hit full volume. Elise burst into tears when she realized there would be no first dance. My mother paced the hallway complaining loudly to anyone who would listen. My father kept calling vendors demanding answers he didn't want to hear, and Dorian, my brilliant, confident brother, stood in the center of the room, staring around like someone had pulled the world out from under him. He tried to salvage it. He tried to sound authoritative. "Everyone stay calm. It's just a mix-up, but lies fall apart fast when combined with entitlement." Guests murmured. Some left. Some whispered, "Did the family not pay their bills?" Others shook their heads like they were witnessing a predictable downfall. The best man attempted to start an impromptu speech to distract people. Elise cried harder. A child in the second row asked loudly, "Is there at least cake?" There wasn't. By 1 o'clock, the venue coordinator approached my mother with a clipboard. With no vendors present and no food, she said we'll need to discuss the event cancellation terms. The wedding, after months of pressure, demands insults, and perfectionism was officially over. And I wasn't even there to see it. I didn't have to be. Their voices filled my voicemail like a documentary unfolding in real time. In the middle of it all, one text stood out from the flood. "Mason, whatever's happening right now, I hope you're breathing easier." I was. Around mid-afternoon, I stepped outside onto the small balcony of my apartment. The air was warm, touched with summer. Cars moved below unbothered. A dog barked. A neighbor watered her plants. Life kept going quiet, steady, unaffected by the collapse of the Hart family wedding. I thought of every moment I'd been dismissed, every late night I'd spent tweaking plans, every sneer, every comment, every reminder that I was less than. And then I thought of my mother's words, "The greatest gift is you vanishing from this family forever." For the first time, the sentence no longer hurt. It felt accurate. A gift indeed, just not for Dorian. For me. By evening, the voicemail inbox was full. Some messages were angry. Some were panicked. Some, like my father's last one, sounded exhausted. None of them apologized. None of them asked if I was okay. All of them asked me to fix what they had broken. I turned off my phone. Then I opened my laptop and typed a message I'd been avoiding for too long, an inquiry to a realtor in Asheville about available apartments. A place I had visited once, loved instantly, and never believed I deserved to start over in. Their wedding had collapsed. Their legacy would soon follow. But for the first time in my life, I was finally building something for myself. I moved to Asheville 2 weeks after the wedding unraveled. Not in a dramatic escape, not in the middle of the night, just quietly with 2 suitcases, and the kind of calm that comes after a storm you no longer feel obligated to stand in. My new apartment wasn't big, but sunlight poured through the windows in a way I'd never seen back home. It felt like a place built for breathing again. While I settled into this new rhythm, Erie kept unraveling without me. Mason sent updates in gentle doses, never gloating, just letting me know what was happening now that the person who had held everything together had finally stepped away. Vendors pulled their extended credit. Suppliers tightened their terms. My parents tried stepping in at the store, but the systems I'd built weren't magic. They required care, consistency, and actual effort. Dorian tried to take charge, but management wasn't something he could bluff his way through. Within weeks, the store that had survived every dip and bad season collapsed under the weight of their negligence. My mother and father sold the house soon after. I saw the listing online cozy lived-in property near town. I wondered if buyers could feel the strain inside those walls. As for Dorian, Elise left quietly, her ring returned with a short note. I didn't celebrate it, I didn't need to. Some consequences don't require applause. In Asheville, my life grew in small, steady ways. Shirley welcomed me like she'd been saving a spot just for me. Her bakery became the place where I met local shop owners, picked up new clients, and remembered what it felt like to be valued without conditions. My income stabilized. My days had shape again. I found a hiking trail I loved, a cafe that knew my order, a version of myself I hadn't met before. One morning, a letter arrived. My mother's handwriting. She wrote about health scares, about needing me, about family sticking together. It wasn't an apology, it was a pull. I wrote back short, polite, final. I wished her well, but I didn't go back. Healing isn't the same as returning. Looking back now, I don't feel triumph or bitterness, just relief. Leaving wasn't the punishment they imagined. It was the beginning of a life that finally belonged to me. Their wedding collapsed, the store followed, and the version of me who kept trying to earn their love is gone too. What remains is quieter, stronger, and no longer afraid to choose peace over permission. If any part of my story echoes something you've lived, share it in the comments so none of us feel alone in this. And if you want more stories like this one, hit subscribe. There's a new chapter waiting for you every day.